Guys, Banjo's back. I want to share a quick little story about me and my friend Che Guevara. It's really funny because I think it's ironic, I suppose, that a revolutionary figure from Central and Latin America, although those two words are debatable in my opinion, uh, has become such a massive corporate commodity, and I don't think he would have liked that. But hey, it is what it is. It's really funny in my opinion. Growing up, this guy was a big deal to us. Now, keep in mind, to us, he wasn't the only revolutionary figure coming from the area. He was one of many, and honestly, I think he was probably one of the better looking guys. And we used to read his books all the time, and his, let's be honest, some of his propaganda and his political philosophy and all those things. And, every now and then I'll just go back and look at some of his pictures of things that he did, what he used to look like, all that good stuff. I just want to point out that for what, in my personal opinion, dudes from this era look a lot better than some dudes from the current era. But I think that has to do with the fact that they just look more rugged, in my opinion. So I guess that's the kind of dude I'm into. Hey, but anyways, every now and then I'll just go back and just pull him up and look at some of his pics and stuff like that, and I'll check out his Wikipedia, and every now and then I'll see things where I'm just like, there's something wrong here, there's something not right there, so on and so forth. Uh, I'm not a big fan of Che Guevara. I'll be honest with you. I appreciate and respect the political figure, and when I say I'm not a big fan, in the sense I mean that uh, and again, it's just funny that his merch has become so commercialized, so corporatized, and it's sold to a lot of leftists who are against corporate. But anyways, it's just things I think about. But I'm not that big fan of his policy and politics. To an extent, some of it I'm like, yeah, this makes a good point. This makes some pretty good sense, especially what he would call some of the human rights abuses and stuff like that. But to go further, back in Central America and places where I visited and spent a long time, there was also people there who weren't a big fan of him, but they also were not a big fan of the U.S. policy and politics either. So let's just be clear about that. I'm not trying to say they were siding with one or the other. They didn't like either. But the reason he comes up in my mind often is because I see a lot of kids in colleges wearing the Che Guevara t-shirt. And they don't know why they're wearing the Che Guevara t-shirt besides the fact that it's cool and it's fashionable. And it's really funny because to a lot of people, Che Guevara is in a sense a god, a revolutionary god that brought them freedom. And to a lot of other people, or maybe the same amount, he's kind of a monster. He did some really, really awful things to innocent human beings. It depends on who you want to listen to and which way you look. And it's really funny because some of the books I read from him, a lot of them excluded a few details and others included them, and then some sort of skewed it. So you could always see where the author was coming from and how they wanted to push the narrative. But, anyways, I was always a big fan of this guy, and it always boggled me. Why would he wear a Che Guevara shirt if you have no idea who he is? I remember in college, one guy showed up with a Che Guevara shirt and a beret. Oh my god, it was so embarrassing. I nearly jumped out of my own skin because I was like, who does this guy think he is? He's culturally appropriating. I'm just kidding. But it was really funny because you could tell that this dude had never been exposed to any of this stuff. And in his head, he was just like, yeah, they're fighting against America. That's why it's cool. That was his whole thing. Like, he didn't even know what they were fighting for or against. And you guys should really look up the Banana Republics. There's a lot of really cool information there. I wrote a bunch of papers on it, a bunch of essays. That was some of my favorite aspects of parts of history. Awful, but favorite. And a professor just called him out on it. And this professor, he was like a bleeding heart socialist leftist guy, and he just wrecked this kid. He just raked him across the coals, and this guy had no idea what the Che Guevara t-shirt was. Long story short, I never saw him wear that shirt again because he realized, like, oh crap, this means something. So I'm making this video just to say, hey, for all you guys out there who are wearing the Che Guevara shirts, make sure you know what you're wearing. I'm not saying you should be an expert in everything, but you should have some idea what you're wearing. And I'm not saying don't wear it. I'm not threatening none of that stuff. I'm just saying I think it's funny that a lot of people will wear Che Guevara and this okay. So I used to have his flag in my room. It was just a flag of him, and it said "Hasta la victoria siempre" and the "Wait up, water break." Some damn good water. And I had his T-shirt in my room. Okay, I had his T-shirt. I had his books. My dad bought him for us in Spanish and Espanol. Not only his books, like I said, there's a bunch of other revolutionary leaders who, in my opinion, do not get the credit for what they did, and there's a bunch of people who use nonviolence to go a lot further than some of the guys who use violence. But we'll go from. But in the end, they all became martyrs. Uh, and I should say some of them were actually priests. And it's interesting the Roman Catholic priests in Central America during like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. But anyways, I mean the whole history is like the whole South and Northern American history is so fascinating to me. But anyways, so I had his flag in my room. I had his flag. I had this one. It was a black flag with his face on it with like fire in the back, like super edgy, teen edgy. And then I think we had a Cuban one and an American one with his face on it. It was so cool. And and unfortunately, like they went through the flags went through so much that they started falling apart. But we still have them. And this guy comes into our room, and he's one of those guys who like was into Marxism, and I don't actually think he was into Marxism. I just think he liked the idea of like a centralized government where everyone's equal, but he didn't really understand the full concept of what that meant and the history. He just didn't understand the history. And he looks at this Che Guevara flag and he goes, "Oh, cool. What band does he play for?" And I said, "What? What?" And he goes, "Is he like a singer to some Spanish band?" And I'm like, "Something like that." But anyways, so it's just so funny the history I have with this political figure. I mean, I don't personally know him, but I've always been boggled by the fact that a lot of people would buy his merchandise, but would never actually go at least at the very minimum into his Wikipedia page and read up on what's going on. His history. And I'll say this: a lot of people, once they do read his history, they kind of tone it down a little bit because they realize that at the end of the day, he was just a person as well. He had his flaws and whatnot. And I'm not defending the evils that he did, and I'm not praising the goods that he did. I'm just saying that for all you college kids out there who are wearing like Marxist shirts, Karl Marx, okay. Another one. This is why it's always in my head. This past week, I was invited to go speak at a college classroom, and it was a former friend of mine who now teaches at a college, uh, so I went there, and I'm just doing my thing. I'm talking about genocide and political violence and all those things, and I see a gentleman with a Karl Marx T-shirt, and I said, "Dude, right on, right on. You're a big fan of Marx, because I'm not gonna put him down for his political beliefs. If he wants to have a discussion, we'll be more than happy to have a discussion. But I just thought it was cool that he was trying to at least be, somewhat knowledgeable of history." And he goes, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "Bro, he's on your shirt, dude. Look at your goddamn shirt." But it's so funny. So, anyways, I guess what I'm trying to say is to all you college kids out there wearing the Che Guevara T-shirts, praising the socialist or the Democratic or the Republican figures, be it Reagan, Clinton, Castro, Marx, you name it, Stalin, whoever you want to praise, at least know what you're doing, especially if you want to be politically active. But anyways, this one's a little shorter. Uh, to this day, I still read his works. I just go over them because in a really weird way, it feels like reading from an old friend, because like I said, I used to read quite a bit of his stuff back in middle school, because my dad was really pushing history on us and just, the history from where he's from where my mom's from, the history of our country. He wanted us to know how lucky we were to be born in America and what all the things that people have gone through to build what this is. And, just kind of the realization that even though America has a pretty dirty past, well, guess what? So does the rest of the world. So I've always really appreciated that. And, Che Guevara, at the end of the day, he was a figure that really captivated my mind because growing up, I really thought I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a revolutionary leader. I'm going to, like, rise into revolution and free the people. Only to realize that by the time I'm 28, women are fighting for men to sit with their legs closer together. And I'm like in my head I'm thinking to myself, if I go to LA, there's still women handcuffed to sewing machines, but you feel your biggest fight in the world is man spreading. So it's just so funny. I really think we live in interesting times. But hey, for all you guys buying the Che Guevara merch, thank you. Please keep buying it. Just make sure you know what you're doing. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna sell Che Guevara merch. I make a lot of money doing that. But as always, I love you guys. I really hope the more I talk about these things, the more you look into history. It's just so funny because my dad would tell us like Che Guevara stories and stuff like that, and like what he would do, what he did. My dad's not Cuban, by the way, but he would also tell us other stories of other revolutionary figures, and it was almost like fairy tales to an extent because you would hear these Rambo like figures do the impossible, and then when you read the actual history, the actual documentation from credible sources, you kind of see the reality, you see the embellishments, you see the myth and the folklore, and uh you know, you become a little, I don't want to say disillusioned, but you kind of take a step back and realize like, okay, this was just another, you know, another important figure who wasn't flying. Basically, you kind of see the humanity in the person, so it's really exciting. But anyways, I hope you guys the best of everything. Love all y'all. Love every single one of you. If you ever get the chance, please just check up on the Che Guevara page, especially if you're gonna wear his T-shirts. I'm not trying to gatekeep. I mean, you don't have to, but personally, I like to be informed. And what I love to do as well is, believe it or not, I'll actually click on the blue links to see what they're talking about. Because sometimes I'm kind of dumb. So like diplomat, what's that? Click on it, and then I'll read the quick history on it, then go back and keep doing my thing. Was that the UN? Hey, that's the UN. But anyways, again, I'm not trying to gatekeep. Wear what you want to wear. I really don't care. But you know, like I'm trying to say is that try to be a little aware of what's going on. Uh, but I just think it's really funny, you know, especially if you're at a college and you want to be politically active. But again, I know this is coming off as kind of gatekeeping, and for that I apologize. But hey, I'm just trying to say, wear what you like, but if you're gonna be politically active, please know your political symbols. Anyways, I think my parents are home. I'm gonna get in trouble. Just kidding. I'll catch y'all later. Have a great day, you guys.